So, good morning, everyone. My name is Michael. I am the third member of council who you have heard talk today. Um, I, in, I think it's very normal when we're stressed, when we don't know what to do, when something's new, when we're experiencing any kind of worry or anxiety. We like to cling to structure, routine, what we know. We get more rigid. We hold on tighter. That's a very normal human response, echoed by many wonderful anti-heroes in the Bible. And I think that's in the tradition of hot metal. When things get more stressful, we need to get a little bit weirder and a little bit more chaotic, because that's in more fitting with the hot metal ethos that I am aware of. So today we're going to try something a little different. Instead of a traditional sermon, we're going to do a spiritual formation activity together. It's called Immanuel Journaling. I'm going to walk us through it. I'm going to ask you to give it a shot. This is a discernment exercise. It's a way of interacting with God directly. It is a way of figuring out where you're at and trying to understand what God has to say about you. We're going to try this in a communal way. So there is this table set up in the back, and in just a minute, we're going to transition back to this table. We're all going to take, there's some writing utensils on the table, and we're going to write on this big piece of paper together. Immanuel journaling is a writing exercise, but feel free to draw, doodle, whatever you feel led to do. And if you do not feel inclined to participate, that's perfectly okay as well. But I'm going to ask that we give it a shot, because this is also an exercise that we can use as we are in a season of discernment as a community. As we're trying to figure out what to do, we have big, hard questions to answer. Having basic practices that can kind of root us all together can be very helpful. For those of you on Zoom, you can type in the chat if you'd like. You can write if you have pen, crayon, paper, something like that handy, or pulling up another document if you'd like as well. So this is very similar to Lectio Divina, where we've done Lectio Divina a couple times, where we reflect creatively on a scripture, listen to it a couple times, and hear what God's saying. So what I'm going to ask us now to do is transition over to this table on my left, your right, and find a writing utensil and a chair, and sit down. Make yourself comfortable, please. Kids welcome as well, by the way, if they'd like. No, it's a reflector. I think. All right. Okay. Feel free to arrange yourself as creatively as you'd like around the table, or if you need to make some more space for yourself, please do that as well. So while we get settled and kind of orient ourselves to being a little bit closer to people, or being next to people we don't know, or being in a weird, this is a non-traditional church activity, I'm going to sort of center us by reading a verse from the book of Exodus. So as you're settling in, please listen. If you'd like to close your eyes or make yourself comfortable in another way, please feel free to do that as well. This is from Exodus 3:7-8. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them. I'll read that again. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people at hot metal. I have heard them crying out because of their stressors, and I am concerned about their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them. The first part of this practice and hearing with God, we're going to take about 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds for each activity. But the first thing I'd like you to write or draw or sketch or whatever. There's some really creative people here. So however you creatively would like to engage, I would like you to tell God something you are thankful for. We'll take about 30 seconds. The answer is always allowed to be, I don't know, as well, or nothing. That is always an acceptable answer. Again, on Zoom, if you'd like to use the chat for this, if you'd like to use your own writing utensils, however you feel called to do so. When you have finished writing down what you are grateful for, we're going to pause, take a breath, and I want you to write down what you think God has to say about your gratitude. You have given some gratitude to God, and I'd like you to write, draw, sketch, or whatever, God's response to your gratitude. Please don't get stuck thinking that you have to write down the literal words of God, but you can go on vibes, right? You can go on what you feel, not asking for, there's no grades, no test. How does God respond to your gratitude? Have hopefully moved ourselves a little bit towards a place of gratitude, towards a place of trying to understand that God is in this place, God is with us, whether we believe that, understand that, sense that, feel that, or not. We are going to, in a spirit of gratitude, try to connect with God's presence with us right here, right now. So now I want you to write down, focus on what you physically feel. What do you see? What does God see when God looks at you right now? This can be, I can see you smiling. I can see you sitting in the chair or coloring. I saw you having a cup of coffee or changing a diaper this morning. I saw you when you couldn't sleep or when you slept too late. I saw you when you were angry, when you were excited. What did God see you doing now or today? And you can continue to work on that. Or if you'd like to move on, what has God heard you thinking or saying? Has God, what the swear words you've said out loud or not said out loud, the prayers, the hopes, the concerns. God has heard me regretting wearing a flannel today. God maybe has heard us say, finally, to the sunshine. Whatever God has heard you think or say today. Again, this can be writing, this can be drawing, this can be a color or a shape. It can be numbers, if that's how your mind works. And you can continue to write or draw or reflect on what God has seen, what God has heard, or if you'd like, you can move on to how God perceives your emotions and gets how you're feeling. You can write, draw, sketch what God has to say to you about your emotions. I know this is scary, this is vulnerable. I understand that you think this guy is weird. I understand that this is new, or you're concerned, or you're burnt out, or you're joyful, you feel light. You feel me with you, you don't feel me with you. I understand how you feel about this. And you can continue to work on what God sees, what God hears, how God understands. And if you'd like, you may move on to how God responds to this in a kind, gentle, tender, and loving way. I am with you in this. You are not alone. I am leading you forward. I am glad to be with you. How God is responding to you, to what God sees, hears, perceives, and now how God responds in a gentle, kind, tender, and loving way. And the last little bit here, you can write about what God is saying as to how God will help you at this time. I have been growing your courage and confidence. I will tell you how to speak. I will be with you. I will reduce your anxiety. I will give you strength. How is God going to do something, or what does God say God is going to do about what you're going through? All right. Thank you all for participating. So take a second, and if there's anything you want to finish up, or things that were incomplete, or ways that you feel led, if there are Bible verses or stories or poems or songs or art that came up for you, write those down, finish up engaging with this. And when you've done that, take a second to check in and see how you feel. Do you feel vulnerable? Do you feel annoyed? Do you feel peace? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, whatever is there for you. When you've had a second to do that, I'm going to invite us to transition back to our seats in a minute, not yet. Luke is going to play a song for us. And if you'd like, while you transition, take a look at what other people have written. We all did this together so that we can see that individually and communally, these are all things that we have to deal with. That God is with us right now in all of this. So I invite you to, as you come back to your seat, whenever you're ready, take a look at what other people have drawn, see what comes up for you. And often the way God speaks to us, I know God speaks to me often through other people, because my brain does not listen well, so other people have to tell me things. So I invite you to circle around the table, take a look at what other people have done as you transition back to your seat while Luke plays a song for us. Sorry. Thanks, everyone. We'll move into the prayers of the people now.